everyone, it's Annette with ASCardDesign. Today we are going to be playing with watercolors. We're going to make a card very similar to this. We're going to create a nice soft watercolor background, and then we'll do this floral focal element, so stay tuned. That's coming up next. Alright, so for this technique, you can use any watercolor set that you have. I've practiced with all of these, and I have some other ones, but this was just a very inexpensive watercolor set from Prang, and these colors, this particular set, the colors are very vibrant. And you can see they're still a little wet from me playing around with that here before I started recording. This is another set that I have. I have a few of these. These are really nice travel sets, but they have beautiful colors. This one happens to be called Essence, and it's from Art Philosophy, and it just is a really nice little travel pack, and the colors are just beautiful. I have another one from this company, and I don't have it here with me, but it's more pastel colors. But the pack I'm going to use, or the palette I'm going to use for today's video, is this set of watercolors from Koi. Now these are Japanese watercolors. They're made in China, but they're Japanese brand. And I got these a couple years ago from my brother for my birthday. And the colors are beautiful. And I don't know that the camera is going to pick this up, but let's just take this out. This is a nice travel set as well. It comes with that little tray and then these little sponges to dab, I think to dab your brushes on, but I don't know if the camera is going to pick this up. I think it is, but the colors are very soft and shimmery. They have a little bit of a sheen to them, and that's what we're going to use today. I'll bring in the finished card, or my practice card. It's just, the camera's just not picking up the sheen, but in person, all these colors have a very nice translucent shine to them, and I really wish the camera was picking that up. But that's the look from this particular style of watercolors. So that is what we're going to use. So let me get set up here. And what I am using is some watercolor paper, and this is from, hold on, I forgot to bring that in. This is from a watercolor pad I picked up a while ago from Michael's, and it's Artist Loft watercolor, 90 pound, and I believe it's cold press. Yes, 90 pound acid-free cold press, and it's medium weight. It's just what I had on hand, so that's what I'm going with. So I just tore out a sheet, and then I cut it in half. All right, and then I have this medium matte. I'm just going to use that. Now, I don't watercolor very often, and this is just going to be very loose, but you do want 2 containers of water. One is going to be for the cleaning your brush, so that'll be the dirty water. And then my camera is trying to adjust here on what to focus on. And then the other glass, or the other jar, is for the clean water. So the first thing you want to do when you watercolor is you want to spray the paints to get them activated. So you just want to spray, get them nice and wet so they can start activating, and then you just want to give that a minute or two. All right, I had to adjust the lighting. I think the lighting was the issue with the camera staying out of focus. All right, so let's see what happens here. So I'm just going to take this wide brush. I want to wet the paper, so you want to use a larger brush. This is a brush that I've had in my stash. I'm going to try to find the link to the website I bought it from, because I used to watch her YouTube channel, and I haven't watched it in a while, but I'll go back and see if I can find it. But she is an amazing watercolorist, and she had a line of, or has a line of brushes, so I have her brushes, just a small set of them, but she always puts these really nice messages on her brushes. So I'm just going to use this container as my clean water. And watercolor needs water to move. So I'm just going to put a pretty decent amount of water just at the top of my watercolor paper. You do want to have paper towel on hand. And then I want to dip my brush into the water. So I'm going to go with like a the blues and the purples up at the top. And you just want to lay down color. And I'm not creating a design. I'm not drawing a landscape. I'm just putting color down. Okay, and we're going to go all the way down the panel. And then if you want to draw it down a little bit further, just wet your brush again and pull the color down. Okay, and I do want to build up a little bit of color up here. I want this a little bit darker, so just build it up. Okay, and your paper will curl. That is normal. I'm going to add a little bit more here. Okay, just get that a little bit darkened at the top. We are going to crop this down once it dries. All right, so I'm going to clean off my brush, and then I want to take this brush again and put a little bit more water down because I want to bring in my next color. And let's go with this blue and see what happens. And you want to start in the previous color so it'll blend, and then you can just pull it down. The more water you use, the more blended the look will be. And I'm just going to continue doing that right down the panel. I'm just going to keep adding water, adding more color, cleaning my brush off in between. Let's try this emerald green color. Ooh, that's pretty. That kind of reminds me of the ocean. Whoops. It doesn't matter if you hit the wrong color. You're just getting some nice soft colors in there. And then I think I'll bring in some pinks. So let's go ahead and try this color here. That's a very nice pearlescent pink. I don't think the camera's doing it justice. Very light, nice and soft. And then we'll go ahead and put some water down at the bottom. And if you have color bleeding in, you just blot it off. It's pretty forgiving. Let's go with this orange color. Let's just try that. That's pretty bright. That's pretty bright, but it's okay. You can add water and soften it out. Blend it up a little bit and bring it down. And it really doesn't matter what's down here because we're not going to be using that. We're just going to crop that right off. Okay, so we'll just go with something like that. I'm going to clean off my brush. And this one just had plain water, so we don't really need to clean that. And then you want this to dry. So you can let it dry naturally, or you can just take a heat tool and dry it. But before we do that, I am going to bring more purple in here. I might even bring this blue and purple together. Let's just see what that does. Okay, just at the very top. All right, I think we'll just stop there. So that is our panel, and it's very, very wet, and the paper's curling. You cannot appreciate the shine, but it's very shimmery here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a heat tool to this, and I'll be right back. All right, so this is all dry. I used a heat tool and just hit it on both sides, and it's nice and dry, and it's a little warped, but I'm not going to worry about that because we're going to be die cutting that. But first, I'm going to do some stamping. We're going to stamp that focal image. And this is from the GinaKDesigns Thankful and Blessed stamp set. I'm going to use these cute little cone flowers down here. Really, really like those. So let me go ahead and bring in a piece of cardstock. And we're just going to do some simple stamping, and we're going to color them in with watercolor pencils. So it's very easy. These stamps are just so pretty. The artwork is already done for you. And let's see, I have room to go this way, I believe, because we will die cut these out. So I'm just going to take some GinaK Black Onyx and ink those up. Okay. Give them a good press. And I'm going to ink them up one more time. just press down real good. Make sure you have a good image. Okay, and that looks real good. I just love the line art on these stamps. This stamp set is getting a lot of use here for me. I've been making a lot of cards. Okay, so let's put that away. And then the black onyx ink dries very quickly, but I went ahead and did one off camera, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one for my watercoloring, okay? Or not my watercoloring, but my colored pencils. So I have this container of colored pencils. I've had these forever. I think my son had these when he was in college, which was, you know, what, 2000, when did he graduate? 2006? So I've had these for quite a while, but I just pulled out some colors. I have coneflowers in my garden, and they are kind of an orange color. So I pulled out an orange, and this is called Red Orange. And the brand of these watercolor pencils are called Sargent Art. It's kind of hard to read, but there, Sargent Art. Okay, so we're going to use the red orange and also the, oddly enough, red violet. Okay, we're going to use those two colors for the flowers. And what's really nice about this technique is you don't have to be precise. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here better so you can see. And then I'm going to go in with, I'm going to start with the center one. And what I do is I just go around the outline of the petals. I just go around the outline and I fill it in. You could even leave some white space. That would be a good look as well. But I'm just going to go around just very loosey-goosey, and then the top part I'm just going to go in a little bit darker, and we'll come back to that in a minute. And then I'm going to do the same for the other two. This is real time. I'm not, you know, forwarding or fast forwarding or speeding up, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not speeding up the coloring, so you'll see how easy it is. And then you just go all the way around those petals. Colored pencils are, I find, very easy way, and markers, but I have more colored pencils than I do markers. And then I'm just going to, again, go around the base. Okay, we'll come back to those. And then for the leaves, I'm using these two colors, apple green and aqua green. And I'm going to go in with the lighter color first. And again, I'm just doing the outline on every leaf. You can just see how easy this is. There is a technique at the very end I'm going to show you to really make the leaves and the flowers look like they have dimension. And it's just so easy. And it doesn't take any effort at all. Okay, so that's the first green. Now I'm going to take my aqua green and I'm just going to go in a little bit darker, just at the base of the leaf and about halfway up. Okay, this just adds a different color. That's a nice little tip for dimension, but we will take it one step further here in a minute. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to take dark brown and we'll do the tops of the cone flowers. Just fill those in. There we go. All right. Now here is the tip. Take black. This is just the color black. Okay. Where are we? Come on, camera. There we are. Black. All right. And then you're just going to take, I don't know if you can see, I'm going to pull this in, but this on the stamp, the actual stamp, it already puts where the highlights are. The stamp inked much darker right there. So we're just going to go over those inked edges in black. Okay. That's all you do. They've already told you where to put the shading. So we're just taking a black colored pencil and going over those lines. And then for the leaves, just at the very base, I'm just going to make a V and then a line in the middle, or you can do the line in the middle and then a V. It's that easy. It just doesn't take anything. Just draw a line and then go up each side. And I'll pull it up closer to the camera here in a minute. You'll see what I'm talking about. It just really adds a little illusion of dimension. Okay. And there. So you can see how that just really makes that image pop. All right. Okay. So that is it for the coloring. Now we'll bring in the coordinating die for this set, also called Thankful and Blessed. And we're going to die cut this. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll die cut the sentiment as well. We're going to use the So Very Grateful from the same set. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stamp that and die cut both, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and die cut the little flowers. They came out really great, and I did the greeting, and then I stamped it once but cut it out twice. So I had 2 layers, and I just glued those together just to give it just a little dimension there. And so, and I also die cut the matte layer using Master Layouts 2 from GinaK, and I used the larger rectangle or square. Looks like a rectangle to me. Went ahead and used that as the matte layer, and then I'm going to cut out the watercolor panel in this stitched panel die. So I wanted to show you that. I wanted to show you how I'm going to crop that. So I'm going to set that aside, bring in the big shot. Let me zoom out. And so again, I'm using Master Layouts 2 for the panel, and this is the stitched die in that set. And then what I did is I'm bringing back my watercolor. Okay, it's such soft colors. It's really hard to pick up. But I think if I just angle it away from the light, you can see. And I want to really try to get a little bit of each color here. But you know, maybe just a little bit of the orange, but I really like that blue and purple. So I'm just going to go like that. I'm not even going to tape it down. And I'm just going to run it through. And I'll save the scraps for, I can always die cut little elements, little leaves maybe, or just other things, you know. I can use this to die cut things like that from. But there is my panel. So you can see the nice stitched edging around it. All right, so I wanted to show you that. Let me get this out of our way and put this card together. So we have this. We have our card base, and this is my usual card base. It's just a 8.5 by 5.5 piece of cardstock, 110 pound, and I score it at 4 1/4. Normally, I make my cards like open like a book, but since our focal image is going this way, landscape, I'm just going to turn it so it will be a top folding card. All right, I've already stamped my logo here on the back, and I want to bring in my matte layer, and we'll go ahead and glue that down. I think I can zoom back in for all of this. So first thing is we'll get this down onto the matte layer. And I always turn it the way I want it oriented. So if I'm putting it, if the card is going this way, you know, I go that way. But here it's going to be landscape oriented. So I'm going to come over here on the white part of my board so I can see all the edges. And just get that on. Well, we'll try that again. Had a little bit too more up at the top. Too much at the top. Well, I am struggling with this one. All right, come on. I don't like that either. Sometimes just take your time. Okay, that's much better. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you see that it's off with your eye, it's off. That's how I look at that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this right onto the card base. Let's get that down right away. Okay. And we will put that down. All right. And then that's what we have. Again, it's very shimmery and beautiful on my end, but like I said, that camera does not do it justice. And this is just a single layer. I could have cut another piece of cardstock out of that die, just a plain one, and then glued it right onto the back of this just to give it a little substance, but I'm just going to glue this directly on to my card front. I'm just going to center that middle flower right in the middle. Okay, and then I just want to put the stone owl on there just to let it sit for a minute. And then we have the sentiment, so very grateful. It's just a very delicate greeting, and you know, little greeting says a lot right there. So very grateful. And I'm just going to put that right kind of in the middle of that center stem. And I do see that I missed a little bit of glue on this, so let me just come off camera here and put a little bit more glue on that stem. There we go. Okay. And then as I was looking at this card, it kind of the background kind of reminds me of a rain shower, if you can imagine that. So it looked like just a rainbow of shower, like a light shower. So I have these little dots from Waffle Flower. Let me bring those in. These are so cool. These are Waffle Flower, and they are called enamel dots, and it's called Clearly Enough is the style of these. So I'm just going to bring a few of these in, and they already are self-adhesive, so you just take them off, and I'm just going to put a few down here, maybe 3, one up in here. I think I'm just going to do 3. That just looks like raindrops. Okay, so that is the finished card. I hope you give this technique a try. You know, the sky's the limit. If you have watercolors, just use them. Even if you have watercolors in a tube and not in a pan like I do, just put some color down and mix it with water and wet your cardstock or your watercolor paper, and you can do the same thing. You can use any kind of watercolor, any color combination. You don't have to do lines. You can do whatever you want, but it just makes a really nice grounding background to a nice line art focal image. So, all right. If you like this video, I hope you give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe so you don't miss the next time I post a video. I do 2 a week, and you can also visit my website, ASCardDesign.com. There's a bunch of cards there. I have a blog, and you can check that out. Anyway, it's just a lot of fun, so check it out. Until next time, have a great week.